creatives, Karen here, mixed media artist and creative at By the Wolf Moon. This is part 2 of the shadow work I started in the last Coming Home to Self episode, where I completed this page. As with all my videos, this is less about less of a tutorial and more of a video to hopefully inspire you to connect more deeply with your inner creative self, your authentic self, through the art of creating. So while I don't necessarily share much about the techniques that I use fairly simple and self-explanatory techniques, hopefully, but if you do want to know anything about how I have accomplished something on the page, please just comment below and I will help you as much as I can. Generally though, this is definitely more about encouraging your own creativity, encouraging you to explore new ways of doing things creatively, encouraging you to take what is in your head and going around and around in your head all day, every day, and put it onto a page. For me personally, being able to express myself creatively has been a fantastic tool to make use of the stories I continually tell myself and have told myself on my life journey. So we all have a story to tell. We often get caught up in those stories. We often let them define us, and we often spend hours and hours and loads of our energy with these stories going around and around in our heads, and we let them dictate our lives. And for me, that was me as well. But when I started actually taking those stories and transforming them into art and putting them on a page that no one else would see, with the intent that only I would see it, then that's when my life really started to change, and I was able to really get to know myself much more deeply. I was able to offer myself compassion, which is a huge thing for most people, and I was really able to feel more fulfilled and content with my life and the life that I'm creating. And it also was a great tool in helping me understand how to create a better and more fulfilling life. Using a visual art diary or any type of creativity is really especially helpful and fulfilling when you are dealing with the shadow and when you're wanting to do some shadow work. So for me, the best thing about a blank page is the blank page has no judgment. I can put anything onto that page and the page is not going to tell me I'm wrong. What I tell myself about that page might be a different story, but the page is completely neutral. So it's a really great place to start. When I have been in the depths of my shadow in the past, I would get to the stage where I did not want to talk to people anymore, where I would get to the stage where I was so sick of spilling my guts and trying to make people understand what I was talking about and where I was coming from, and going around and around and around in circles and talking the same story over and over again, that I just got to the stage where I just did not want to talk anymore. It wasn't helpful to me. It actually often ended up making me feel worse. I realized that a lot of what I said was muted for the benefit of the person listening to me, and so I wasn't being authentic in a way. And so it wasn't really until I found the joy in creating a visual diary that I really felt truly free to express myself authentically, and have really managed to work through a lot of that shadow and change the outcome, I guess, of the direction I was heading. I just want to say here that, especially when dealing with shadow work, art journaling is a tool to add to your tool belt. It is not the be all and end all of tools. It is simply another tool in your toolbox. So you should definitely still talk to people, still get professional help, but it is simply one more thing to try. It's definitely the thing that I have found to be incredibly helpful for me. So I want to talk a little bit now about why shadow work is so important, and why it's really important to honor it and value it, and not keep putting it off. Of course, none of us like being in the shadow, none of us like feeling bad, none of us like the really awful feelings and emotions, but we all have them. And I think that is becoming, as the world as a whole opens up more authentically, it's becoming much more acceptable for us to talk about our shadow and express ourselves and those feelings that a lot of the time we try to keep hidden. It is not comfortable, however, in a lot of cases, and so that's where I find my visual diary really helpful, because I know that no one in the world has to see these pages unless I show them, or unless I record it and put it out there for the whole of YouTube to see. And I am a crazy cat lady, as you can see by Cersei making her debut appearance on screen here. So it is important to acknowledge the shadow, and it is important to value it, and it is important to be authentic with it as much as we possibly can. And often what I find is that the more I honor my shadow, the more I can honor the light, and so the balance becomes much better, and the transition from shadow to light becomes faster. If I can enjoy the shadow more, honor it and value it, then I can also enjoy, honor and value the light more. So that's why shadow work is really important. And so now I guess I probably need to explain how to work with shadow, how to turn shadow into artwork, how to honor and value it. So basically, it's fairly simple. The way I do it is, when I start to have a thought or a feeling that doesn't feel good, or I notice that it is a thought or feeling that I tend to hyper focus on, that I tend to blame for things, or that I tend to lay blame on. If it is a life experience I've had in my past, generally that is something that a story that I go back to when things aren't working out the way I want them to work out in my present day life. So how I turn that into a visual art piece is, I take that thought, feeling or life experience and I ask myself what it looks like, and then I start to put that on a page. So it's as simple as you can start with color. So usually shadow feels very dark, murky, grey, brown, sludgy. So so I sort of start with that. I sort of start with scenarios that may evoke that feeling. So and then I create the scene in my head and translate that onto the page. So I guess what I'm saying here is the end result, the art piece, is about evoking a feeling. So what you actually see visually may not be a literal representation of an actual life experience, but it evokes that feeling that that doesn't feel good, that shadow feeling, and being able to express it on a page and get it out of my body and onto that page where it is held, it's valued, it gives you a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment because you've created something with that piece of shadow. I really hope that makes sense. So I guess to relate this back to the page I'm doing now, I obviously have not been a choir boy in the middle of a dark, scary forest holding a sword and a dagger being watched by 1,000 eyes. but that feeling of fear and fight and flight and judgment is the all feelings that I've had, and so that is how this page evolved for me. Hopefully that gives you a better idea of what I mean when I say the art piece may not be a literal representation of an actual event or experience, but it is all about evoking that feeling or recreating that feeling that you're feeling inside, that energy that you're feeling or have felt in the past, or whatever you're working with. So hopefully that gives you sort of some clues into how to work with shadow. I actually really enjoy this. So while shadow is harrowing and scary and hard, really hard, and emotional, I actually get a lot of fulfillment and joy out of the art of creating and out of expressing myself, or being able to express myself in something other than words. I do love using words, but I've never really been someone who keeps a journal. I've always thought it would be a cool idea, and I like the idea of it, but it just never happens. It seems like a chore to sit down with a journal and write about my day or write about my feelings, whereas expressing them through my creativity is much more enjoyable and much easier for me. So it's really about, I guess what I'm trying to say here is to keep exploring new things. There is not only one option or one thing that is the right thing to do to have a fulfilling and authentic life. There are so many gurus out there these days telling you that you need to meditate, that you need to journal, that you need to whatever, go walk on the beach. And yes, those are all really great things, but if it's not possible for you, if it doesn't resonate with you, if it's just not your thing, then don't stop trying to find your thing, or don't think that what is your thing isn't authentic because no one else is doing it. Or there's no guru out there saying that yes, this is really helpful and this is what you should be doing to live a joyful and fulfilling and exciting life, and to be prosperous and abundant, and all those catchphrases that are doing the rounds on social media. I am getting a bit off track here. So now you can see the 4 pages of the 4-page spread coming together. I've just attached those 2 pages that were separate, and I am now ready to complete the last page in this 4-page spread. And I feel like I have run out of things to say right now regarding the shadow, so I might just have a little musical interlude for the last few minutes and the last page on this journey into the shadow, and let you enjoy the rest of the video in peace. Okay, we're coming to the end of this shadow work episode now. I want to thank you so much for joining me again. I will be back with another Coming Home to Self episode in the next few weeks or so, so keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, go and enjoy some time creating. See you next time.